All right. Hi, everybody. This is Wayne Doorband here at our Northern Colorado Mountain Sky Ranch property. We are so excited because we've got Dave Roeser that's with us today. Dave is back in the Twin Cities area in Minnesota. For some of you that have been around us for a while, Dave will be an old friend because Dave has been with us on several other occasions. One time when we were doing a training course, he was sort of the hit of the party. A little bit of the backstory of our relationship is that I had the chance to meet Dave and DJ, his wife, back when they were first even thinking about doing what they're doing today. And I'm not going to tell you all about that because Dave's going to tell the wonderful story of where they're at today in their sustainable food production lives. But anyway, we appreciate you being here. Again, we'll be very disciplined. We make this an hour long, and we try to make sure we cut it off at that point. If you're on live, you can certainly ask questions in the chat section. If you're listening to this as a replay, you can do the same thing. You can use the chat section to ask questions, and they get sent to us, and we'll make sure that we answer them. We do have some folks here live with us, Dave, also, and they may ask some questions from our live perspective. Sort of behind me is a conference table, and there's some folks there. So anyway, we're going to get going here. Like I said, I've got Dave Roeser with me. Dave is the founder and CEO, head guru, along with his wife DJ, of Garden Fresh Farms in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And Dave, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be here. Good to be talking with you again, Wayne.
Yeah. Well, Dave and I get a chance to catch up every once in a while, and we actually spoke as we were setting this up as he was driving back from Brookings, South Dakota, which is where the university, where South Dakota State University is present. And Dave, I have connected by email with the folks there. We have not yet spoken, but I look forward to doing that. Thanks for that connection. And again, we have been interacting through our mutual interest in indoor farming, and that's what Dave's going to talk to us about. So I have a series of questions here, Dave, and let's just go right to that one. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your current business and life situation?
Okay, sure, great. Yeah, you mentioned my wife, DJ. We've been married 32 years now. We have three grown children. I guess they're not children anymore. The oldest is a veterinarian. Our second oldest son is a biosystem engineer here at Garden Fresh Farms, and our youngest just graduated from college a year ago, is working in an accounting firm working towards a CPA. So that's where we're at. This whole business got started. I have owned other businesses, and I sold them some years ago, and I had a collection of buildings, and I think, Wayne, you have a collection of buildings too. One of them became empty, this one here in Maplewood, Minnesota, and I was looking at a way to solve the problem of an empty building, and so I got bitten by the aquaponic bug and just realized that there was a lot of, really wasn't a big, a number one or anybody doing things in a commercial scale in aquaponics, and why was that? And so we looked at different equipment and decided that nothing was really going to work out that well. So we spent some time designing our own equipment, which we have patented, and we have two pieces. One we call the orbiting garden, and the other one is the lettuce factory. Might look similar, different to other things that are out there, but they are pretty different. We've had our first farm here in Maplewood. We started 4 years ago and did our research and development, built systems here, had them up and running. They were working very well, and so we got some investor interest, and then built a second farm in St. Paul in what was an abandoned building, basically. And now we have 2 units of the farms. The farms are scalable, and so we have two units of farm, and we're eventually going to fill that building with 10 farm units, which will be about 45,000 square feet of farm, and that'll equal about 100. I'm sorry, yeah, 4,500 square feet, which is about an acre, and that will equal about 100 acres of farmland. So it's a very dense operation.
That is very cool, and boy, it's hard to believe that it's been that 4 years you talked about,
Yeah.
that since you got started. So I know Leigh-Ann was scrolling through the little bits and pieces of your website, and I know one thing that you have all the right to be very proud of is you've won a few awards here over the last couple of years. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's been quite amazing. We won our division in what's called the Minnesota Cup. It's a state operation. It's actually through the University of Minnesota and other businesses that are in. There was about 1,100 businesses that applied, and they boiled it down to 5 divisions, and we won our clean tech and energy division. We then, or just right around the same time, we were in the Clean Tech Open, won the Midwest region for the Clean Tech Open in the sustainability category, and then went on to Santa Clara and competed nationwide and won the national sustainability title for the Clean Tech Open. We then we went on to win the St. Paul Green Products Award, the Positive Minnesota Award, the Eureka Award, and this evening I'm heading to the Techni Award to see if we are one of the finalists in that award category. Great thing that, about if you're starting up a business, aquaponic business or whatever, you win these awards. That means a lot of people are looking at what you're doing and really vetting your process, and it certainly helps as you try to upscale your business model and bring it into other cities, because there's been a lot of people looking at it. So it's really, we've been really fortunate to be to win this many competitions.
So on a day-to-day basis, because you've already talked about the fact that you've got at least 2 of your family members involved, what do you find yourself doing, and what does DJ do, and what is Brian up to? What are the roles you guys play?
The days seem to really run by here, and I do anything from financial to company spokesman to research and development operations. DJ has been working on the production side. She also has really been working on the community supported agriculture business model and the customers there, and we're really seeing that as being a key point for our expansion here in the future, and I can talk a little bit more about that as well. Brian is our biosystem engineer. He's there in that picture right there, the one with the beard, and that is when we won the Family Farm of the Year award in 2012 in Minnesota. So that's what that picture is. And Brian is a co-inventor on the equipment. Now we are working on another piece of equipment, one that we call a fruiting factory, is kind of the working title, and that is to grow peppers and tomatoes in a very dense manner that wouldn't grow in our current systems the way they have.
So since that's one of the new things you're doing, and actually now tell us the difference, just in a broad sense, between your orbiting factory, your vertical factory, and we've already seen several pictures there, I think, of the vertical, and now this fruiting factory. So obviously, without giving away anything, tell us, the audience, generally what these things look like, and maybe contrast them to some more traditional types of aquaponic growing systems.
Yeah, I can. Let me start with the orbiting garden, which is, there are some orbiting things out there. There's one called a carousel. I think, Wayne, you have an Omega or something. This is very different, and the way they're actually like shelves if you think of it like this. So see if a picture that's a picture right there looking inside an orbiting garden. Now each one of these drums that is 4 feet wide and they're 8 feet long, and they're very different. The lighting is different. The drive system is very different. But if you think about how you're seeing a lot of stacked hydroponics, what you're seeing is you see I call it the bunk bed method or the shelves. You have one shelf and then you have a light, and then you have another shelf and a light and a shelf and a light. So what we did is, if you can envision this, we take that shelf and you in running the long way and you curve it a little bit, running front to back, and you make 4 of these panels. So the 4 of these shelves actually clip onto this orbiting garden. So down the long way. So the 8 foot long and they're curved on. What that allows us to do is to move the panels in relationship to the plant and the light, the space to the light, and it also allows us to take off the panels and harvest them in a really ergonomically correct way. And so that's how that is working. The plants are facing in towards the light. And by doing this, instead of doing the light light with each shelf, what we've done is we basically have 4 shelves on a cylinder in one light source. So we've really reduced the lighting by about 75%. And all the plants are getting a good healthy dose of light based on the daily light interval that they need. There you can see a picture. One of the orbits is open, and you can see behind it is rows of the orbiting garden. Now, the other thing is that if you have a stacked hydroponic, you can maybe get 4 or 5 shelves in that space. By us doing it in a rotary like this, not only 75% less light, but we can stack one on top of the other like you're seeing behind me, and you get the equivalent of 8 shelves, yet everybody is still being able to manage it by standing on the ground. So you don't have to get up really high, which is dangerous for people. So we grow mostly products that care about gravity. Basil is one, dill and cilantro and things like that are another, and they slowly orbit, dip into a solution coming from the fish tanks, and grow like that. The other product that you had a picture of it up a minute ago was the lettuce factory, and if you think of you've seen the systems how they're growing lettuce and floating rafts. What we're doing is there's a picture right there. What we've done is we think of the floating raft system where you take a raft and you now make it vertical and you make it a sandwich board, and so they're on an overhead conveyor system, and they get watered inside. And what you're seeing in the middle, you're seeing the ones that are very bright. Those are the rows. The dark lines that you're seeing are the edges of the panel. And the ones that are very bright like that, that's where the new plant has just gone in. And that's going to go down the warehouse and take about 5 weeks to make it all the way around. And it comes back, and if you see all the way on the left-hand side, you'll see the panels that's when they're finished. That's when the product is fully grown, and we pull that panel off, and then we can harvest it as there. So both on the left and the right, our panels are full grown. So it's a way to very densely grow produce with a lot less light and a lot less space.
Awesome, and obviously, as I said before, I've been privileged to be able to be with you as these have evolved and you've done more and more with them. I know a question that I get, and I'm sure you get it, is, doesn't it bother these plants that they're not living, in a vertical fashion? In the case of your lettuce factory, they're living on a horizontal orientation, and then the one that really confuses people is in the orbiting garden. They're living upside down part of the time, and they're living sideways. So talk about. I'm sure you get asked that question. What is your thought about how that's affecting the plants?
Well, it does. What's happening is it's moving slow enough or fast enough, depending on your point of view. But the orbiting garden's taking about a half hour to go around. A plant takes about 15 minutes or better to figure out where it is gravitational, and so it really doesn't have time to start reacting and say try to grow in a vertical direction. So. What happens though, if you notice on this picture here, you'll see the behind my head, you'll see the root balls coming out of the on the basil plants, and you see that they're very small. And what happens is it's almost like a ebb and flow situation in a way. The roots are dipped into the solution coming from the fish, and then they're out of the water for maybe they're in water for 5 minutes and they're out of the water for the other 25 minutes. And so what happens are the little root hairs on the root mass actually get air pruned. And what happens to the plant, and I think Wayne, you've seen this firsthand, is that when it stresses the plant a little bit by having a smaller root ball, but it stresses it, but just enough that actually it brings out the oils and the aroma much better. And so the plant, even though it's upside down and sideways, the stem is actually very succulent as well. It's not real woody, and so when you're processing it, you can process the whole thing. Now, if you go back to the other slide that had the one where there was some boards of lettuce and other products. That one there. If you look at the come back one.
Back one.
Yeah, the one where I had a plaid shirt on. That one there. If you look the board all the way to what you've seen in the back, the one board that doesn't match any of the others, it's looking to the left there. I believe what I'm seeing there is that's actually oregano, and so the growth of the oregano is very different. We found it didn't actually, even though it's a stem product, it actually didn't do very well in the orbiting garden by going upside down and sideways. But growing in the lettuce factory, where the orientation was just one way the whole way, what happened is because it's aquaponic or hydroponic type of growing, the stems again are very succulent, but they're not really strong. So we have oregano that actually kind of grows like a ball. But what happens is it grows and the leaves are big and the stems are really small. Of course, that's what you want. You want to have the big leaves, and you don't want to pay for all that stem, and then you have to destem it and throw that away. So this is again a 100% usable product. When it comes off, it's very very aromatic. Our thyme looks very much like that as well. So it does change the way the makeup, the way the plant is grown when it comes off.
Very cool. Lastly, just at least in a verbally, how is the fruit factory going to be different than these two, and what will it any just broad description you can give us?
Well, what we're finding is that the light has to be just so, and so the closer you can keep the light to it. The other is the fruiting factory, as we know that it needs different light at different stages of its different color spectrums, and so we are engineering well a very different than either of these two. It's hard to describe, but it's very well lit up top to bottom and all the way around the plant. Yet it's always a shared light, and wherever the light goes, it hits the plant. And then the light alters based on what stage of development. So if it's flowering, it's going to be a different spectrum for that. So
the big difference is the way you're handling lighting, and for our audience, it'll give us another chance in couple of years. We interview Dave again, and he'll be able to show us pictures of the fruiting factory. So I just was curious because it's the first time you talked about it.
Well, we're going to probably make some other. We've done 2 tests on it. We grew tomatoes. They came out very good and very tasty. Everybody says if you can grow a great tasting tomato, you're in good shape. everybody will beat a path to your door. But there's something else along the way. Now, in Colorado, you have all sorts of the cannabis legislation is, uh, it has really changed things in Colorado. Minnesota is just getting to that point here with some change, and they are going to be doing cannabis, allowing cannabis growing. Just two players will be allowed in the state to do this, and it will be just for the CBD, which has medical benefits. And so we see that, there's a lot of wasted energy and space in growing cannabis the way it is grown today. We think that our fruiting factory might just lend itself to being a more energy efficient and space efficient way of growing some type of flowering and fruiting product, and it might impact the cannabis as well. So
That's exciting. Just because that's an industry that obviously is on the grow, and yes, we do see more of it out here. Well, I'm going to go to some of the more personal kinds of questions that we gave you a little bit of a glimpse of before, and then each one of them will allow you to talk a little bit more about the business. So you told us about your current status, married for 32 years, and three children, or not children anymore, but young adults, but let's go back to you a little bit more. Tell us where you grew up, and maybe one event from your youth that you remember that caused you to pursue the current life path that you're on.
Well, it's whenever we have university professors here and they take a look at our growing systems, and they say, you really were thinking outside the box, and I informed them that I grew up in the city of Chicago, so I really didn't know what the box looked like to begin with. So I'm an inner city kid. Grew up middle way through high school, escaped to the suburbs, and went to school downstate Illinois. Graduated, started with Hewlett Packard, was transferred to the Twin Cities where I met my wife, and I left HP after about 16 years as a controller. And so I was always in the finance, accounting area, buildings, fleets, IT centers, and things like that. Started my other businesses, sold them. But I guess we were to say what childhood experiences. My father had his own business. My grandfather had his own business. He was in the lumber business. My uncle makes switches. Just the entire family is kind of abnormal, or either that or too obstinate to work for other people too long. So I just kind of knew that it was kind of in the genes or whatever, that eventually I was going to, that HP was a great company back then, and I learned a lot. It was a great experience, and I put in a lot. And that helped me take with a lot, you could say, and started into my own businesses. So that's probably being grown up in a family business, put me in that direction to have my own business and basically have a family business.
Well, that makes sense, and that's something we hear from a lot of the folks that we've interviewed that are entrepreneurs like yourself. So there's another one that sort of take a glimpse of you, because I think even though the question is going to be focused on your youth, it would also relate to today. So let's say, take it back and pretend you were 15 years old, and it was a beautiful Saturday. You're in Chicago, as you just said, beautiful Saturday afternoon, and you just don't have anything else that you're required to be doing. You can do pretty much anything you want on that day. What would we find you doing?
I'd probably find me riding my bike to a park and trying to get a pickup game of baseball or football going or something like that. So you could always find people, and I think that was a great time to grow up. There were so many kids, and we really didn't have the organized sports like there is today. And so we went, and you found a bunch of people at the park, and you got a scratch game going, and no umpires or any or referees to tell you what right or wrong. You figure it out between yourselves, or sometimes there's some fist fights in there too. But you figured it all out, and that's kind of how I spent my youth on a bike a lot, running around, playing a lot of ball.
Awesome. So, just an associated question. At that time and even today, Cubbies or Sox? Or have you been in Minneapolis now long enough, or in the Twin Cities where you're now a Twins fan? But what were you, a Cubs fan or a Sox fan back then?
Well, actually, I grew up on the north side, but I was a Sox fan, which is a south side team. But I probably went to more Cub games because I could get there. At 12 years old, I could get on a bus and get to the L, and the L gets off about a half block from Wrigley Field. So I spent a lot of time going there and chasing autographs back in the day. But I was always been an American League fan, and of course the Twins are American League. Of course, they're the bottom of the American League right now, but they got a beautiful stadium.
Well, they're not as bad as the Rockies, and we have a beautiful stadium too, so we can commiserate together. So one more associated question, I'll leave this topic, is what was the best autograph you ever got? And there's got to be a little bit of a story related to that.
Well, when you're small, if you get on the L, you're going to get trampled. So we always just hung out by the players' exit, and they weren't really prone to give a whole lot of autographs. But it was, just kind of like hanging out and walking with them. I remember Fergie Jenkins and Billy Williams and Ernie Banks. They were just great stars back in the '60s. Ernie Banks, he was right up there. Hank Aaron passed him in home runs later, but they were just, and you got to actually kind of talk to them and kind of got to know them, and they weren't these superstar snobs. They were really nice, regular, down to earth people. Matter of fact, Ernie Banks, when he hung up his first baseman's mitt, he went on to be a loan officer at one of the bank, like down the street. So it was a real different time back in the '60s. I think a lot of the baseball players, had real jobs. Some of them were accountants or farmers or sold insurance. So it was really kind of interesting. They didn't. It wasn't quite like it is today, where you get a multi-million-dollar contract and that's all you do. So.
Right. Yeah, they were very different then. Well, staying on that, can you think of one person who really influenced you in your youth that sort of have caused different life experience that you've had, let's say after college? So a person that had an impact on you in your youth that has affected you now in your post-college time.
Well, I suppose the biggest role model I had, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate that my parents were great role models. My mom and dad, they were married just shy of 65 years when my dad passed away at 88. My mother lived to 96. She was sharp as a tack. She was taking Spanish lessons in her 90s. Gives you an idea. She was played a lot of bridge. They always doing something, always trying to advance themselves, always working hard. They honest, devoted to each other and things like that. They were just really great role models to have, and so I'll chalk it up to both my parents on that. So.
That is awesome, and we hear that from a lot of the folks that we've interviewed, so it just shows how important family is. Changing just a little bit, when you hear the term sustainability, it's a word that we hear out there a lot. What's that mean to you? What does the word sustainability mean?
Well, I guess I should have a good script on this one here, since we're the National Sustainability Award winner here. And the slide that's up in right now really speaks to that. And I was at a conference for the Clean Tech Open, and this person got up and she was talking about the sustainable compass. and she started in using the compass points, north, south, east, and west, and one was economic and social welfare, and and things like that. And I started thinking about it, going, this is really the business model that we have. I just didn't know that there was a name for it. But I'll just regress by saying too that I I think I've told you this one before, Wayne. I say the first environmentalists were actually accountants, because if you ever talk to your accountant says, "Can we reuse this? Can we reduce the scrap here? How can we make this more efficient?" and things like that. So they're always trying to save waste, and so that's really how I come looking at a business model, as you could say, from the financial accounting side. But that being said, if you put a bunch of things together in your business that everybody can like, you just get everybody to like your business, and that's really a key in marketing these days too, is getting people to love your business. And you see car ads today; they hardly ever talk about how many horses they have under the hoods or drink holders they have, but it's about lifestyles and things like that. So what you're seeing here is our sustainable compass model here, with our green footprint made out of basil leaves. And the first, up to the upper left is the environment. And by growing indoors versus outdoors in, say, the high desert of California, we're going to we save 90 to 95% the water. So if it takes a plant about 5 gallons of water to do irrigation out there to grow, it will the amount of water we use is about a mason jar. The reduction in energy, just because we're not transporting it as far, and we also don't have the spoilage as well. So you have to plant more land to account for all the spoilage and getting something to market. And our 100-to-1 use I mentioned earlier about the 1 acre building equal to about 100 acres of farmland. So these are all environmental issues, and so if that's your top item that's important to you, then there's something to like about Garden Fresh Farms. Going to the right there is looking at the financial, the economic things, and so we've got achieving return investment for our investors, so that they that's truly sustainable. It's got to be able to profit, and it has to be able to continue to grow. Without the profit, nothing else is available. And the real estate investment portion. Now, our building in St. Paul that we are in, we have a lease, but a master lease on the building, but we have an option to purchase it. And the reason we wanted that is, here's how the math works. The building was 45,000 square feet in the city. Was fairly good shape, new roof, $800,000, so about $19 a square foot. Hard to build a pole barn for that. But once we have that building all full with farms, just paying regular warehouse rent, which is at a profitable level for the farm, then what happens is the value of that building, because of the way the real estate is valued based on cap rates and income streams from the building, that building will be, when it's all full with our farms, would be worth about $1.6 million. So it's just about doubled in investment on it. So that's why we kind of call it a real estate investment trust in a way. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, once said that McDonald's is really a real estate investment trust masquerading as a hamburger joint, because they own all of their real estate, and of course when they go into the real estate, they do good things to real estate, and so they own those stores and they lease them to the franchisees, and they make a lot of money on real estate as opposed to just making it, and the franchisee makes it on the hamburger. The other part of the compass is the social and community, and so we'll go in and and take over an old building, and now we're creating jobs in that old building so that wasn't there before. We're probably raising the value of that building and also allowing it then to have a better tax base for the city, and we're also increasing access to healthy food, because we do that with our CSAs, and really our product is, the longer after harvest, the longer it's being transported, whatever, after harvest, it starts losing a lot of its nutritional value every day. And so our goal is that we harvest things in the morning, and then we get it to a distributor in that afternoon, and so that it's out being loaded in a truck that evening, and it gets out to the store the next day. So the things are really 24-hour fresh is what we're looking at. So you've got much more nutritious food, and you have the neighborhood being able to access that in either stores or CSAs. And then the last piece is the customer. The customer gets an all natural, no pesticide, because we're growing it inside, fresher, tastier building business or food. And we sell at the same price. If you're used to Earthbound, seeing that in a grocery store, in the clamshells we sell at the same price as California Organic does, and only we're local and natural. So and we're that same year-round quality. So when you look at that all together, and you say, if you had 100 people in a room, you're going to find that everybody in that room is going to like some part of this business. It could be that they like the environmental issue, and that's why they're going to buy your product, or they're shopping for their family and they want no pesticides on their food, and they don't want GMO. All those things, those are important. It may be that they see that the local nature, they love that. Politicians like the idea of creating jobs in the neighborhood, and of course the investor, when they see that you can actually make money at this, they're excited about it. So.
Well, your description of sustainability is really interesting, and one of the neat things, and the reason we ask this question is we get so many different answers, and they're all right. I mean, there's not a wrong and a right way. And I just love this, and your footprint there, I hadn't seen that before with basil. That's really cool. Is there a person in the green movement or the sustainability field, or broadly this natural food field that is really inspiring you today, or has inspired you?
What I guess what we're being inspired by is the issues of distribution. Okay, and sounds like an odd answer to this question, but let me just kind of digress and just say that. That the small local farms, because I think a lot of people in the audience and all that are involved in small local farms and aquaponics. Is that right? And
yes, that's cool.
And what we see is this. It's kind of like think of the beer market. You had Budweiser and Miller sewn up all the distribution. You wanted to get a product. You're a microbrewery and you're trying to make some beer, and now you got this great beer. How do you get it in? Well, these distribution channels were all locked up. They're all expecting to. Let me just try to get rid of one of the phones from ringing here. What you're doing is you have the distribution is all tied up, and you can't get into it, and it becomes a real problem. Now, in the produce industry, they're expecting a semi to show up with a whole bunch of produce, and they check it in once, as opposed to a smaller farm where you're going there more frequently with not a full semi of product. And so some of the distribution looks at this as, well, this is a lot of extra transactions, and transactions cost me money. And so and they're also used to their old lines of distribution, and also being able to switch on a dime, say, oh gee, this product over here is spot market's a little cheaper, so they just drop you immediately and buy something a little cheaper. So what we found is that we really had to change not only farming, but change the distribution as well. And so part of it, like the craft breweries, going directly to the consumer with tap rooms and growlers and things like that. We're doing that with CSAs, where we are delivering them right to offices and in corporate headquarters to do that. And our goal is, there's one CSA here that's just traditional summer CSA, they have over 5,000 members, and so we figure that's a good target. We would be focusing on 5,000 CSA members, but all year round, so every month of the year. So that's it's kind of exciting, and what's really driving us right now. The other part of the distribution is that because our farm can be anywhere, we're talking to a couple of the big boxes, box stores, and also a large supermarket chain, where what we would do is build the farm next to the distribution center. So it would be a contract basis. Basically, they would buy all the production coming out of that farm, and it would just roll across the parking lot or across the street, get into their distribution, and be in their stores the next day, and they would see a savings of not only on spoilage and transportation, but also they wouldn't be paying through that middleman broker or distributor. So we're seeing that's really exciting, and that's really we're having to change that piece, and it's really the part that's been exciting for us right now. So
really good. You mentioned that before, that you wanted to talk a little bit about that distribution side of the model. Leigh-Ann's got a picture of probably what is maybe your template for what a garden fresh farm looks like, and so we'll come to that in a little bit. But let's go back to one more of those kind of life-related questions. This is a real fun one for us to listen to. Maybe not so fun for you to answer. Can you talk about one memorable life experience, a negative one? So something that happened to you negatively that you've had that has helped mold you and make you a better person, whether it's just as a human being or even as a business person. So one memorable event.
Well, that's a difficult one. I usually try to erase those, but it's one of those, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So there's things. Well, I'll just kind of keep it to aquaponics. We had a problem with a air pump failing and a lot of fish dying, and there's just something about when a lot of animals die, and as Wayne, as you said, you're not in the aquaculture business unless you kill thousands of fish. So you've got tankfuls of dead fish. You feel really bad that you didn't do the right thing, and so then what do? You say, well, we need to build a better system. We need to put some more redundancy into this. We need to make it so that if the pump goes out and the air starts dropping, that we have a longer response time to get to that. So you just got to always pick up and go from that. I think, Wayne, we've talked about in the early days, we hit a lot of brick walls with how we were doing things with this business, and but we always just kind of try to learn from them, pick ourselves up, and keep on plowing forward. So maybe it's that obstinance or stubbornness that I was talking about earlier. So.
Well, again, I expected that kind of an answer from you. You're a persistent guy, and you did have some tough times early on, and those 4 years ago, it was a very different situation than today. Can you tell us about some kind of a skill that you've learned in the recent past? And you were talking about distribution, so skill and or something that you've learned that is really having a positive impact on you today. So something you learned fairly recently, let's say last 10 years or something, that you really find that you're now using and it's good for you today.
There's so many things that I'm learning. What I just love about life is that I'm always learning something. I'm 58, but when I was graduating from college, they were starting this term lifelong living, and it's out of Boy, does that sound fun? Or lifelong learning. I'm sorry. I really find that I do like learning all the time. The internet is fabulous for a resource for that, but you really got to check a lot of things before you jump into something. There's a lot of information about aquaponics out there on the web, and most of it's wrong, but it's kind of interesting about that. I suppose there's a lot of information about growing cannabis out there, and a lot of that's wrong too. So it's kind of funny how people put that stuff out there. Um, I'm learning all the time. I'll say a quick switch here. I mentioned that Minnesota is now allowing medical cannabis, and we had joked before, Wayne. You were talking about the wholesale value of marijuana in Colorado, and said, gee, for the live weight, we were getting more for legal herbs than what would be illegal herbs here in Minnesota.
Right.
But
right. Yeah, we talked about that.
But now what's changed is with this CBD, the medical value, which I have to admit that I wasn't too thrilled about that happening, being legally possible here in the state. But now that that was my first get-go at it. Now that I've learned much more about the medical aspects of it, and I've been kind of drinking from a fire hose the last 2 weeks here on that. Learning an awful lot about that and the positive values they can have on people's lives from the medical perspective. And so we've been approached here by, because of all of our awards and other things, we've been approached by several key groups here to put together the proposal for in the state that they're going to choose 2 producers here. And so I'm just learning a lot, been talking to a lot of people and forging together another partnership to use what we've learned in our technology and lighting and growing indoors, and maybe some past experience in the candy manufacturing business and in food processing, and applying that towards medical cannabis CBD production.
Have you grown any other herbs, legal herbs that just mentioned that have a very high value? So we talked about basil, but there's some stuff that's literally almost extinct that people are, that things that only one farmer in Vietnam on the side of a hill that face northeast. I'm sure you've heard those stories at least. Where some particular herb. I'm just curious. Have you ever had anybody come to you and bring you a couple of plants and say, "Hey, try growing this in your system," or anything like that?
Yeah, what we're doing. Of course, we're going for the mass market first. So we're now expanding into 12 different herbs. Looking at lettuce, we have to grow lettuce, but lettuce is a commodity, and it does get a little difficult to grow in the heat of the summer. So we're looking at that and in processing what you can process from that, and so we're expanding that. But that being said, we've also worked with the USDA and a company locally here, most of you maybe have heard of, called Aveda. And Aveda makes very natural products, health, beauty, and healthcare products. They have bought our basil and distilled it and used the oil from the basil to in their facial creams and such. And then they did give us some seeds of some products that actually grow. They need it flowers and goes to seed, and the seed pods burst at uncontrollable times, and so they have a hard time collecting all the seeds, which they press for oil. So now in our systems, if you look at that, we have grown them, and they do flower, they do produce seeds, and when they burst, of course, we can pick them up with a vacuum cleaner off the floor, and so there is no waste in that. And so looking at that's a way of the future, not only growing food right next to distribution so it's in the store the next day, but from a factory perspective of growing a key ingredient that whether it's a medical cannabis or whether it is some other type of plant that some type of herbal medicine or health and beauty ingredient can be grown.
By the way, Jason Aubrey was on here earlier, Dave, and he says hi. He's doing other things, really cool things, actually, in the worldwide food storage and food protection area. But anyway, I wanted to pass that on, that he wanted to make sure to say hi to you. I just have two more questions, and anybody in the audience, if you guys have got anything, please put them into the chat area, and then we'll see if anybody locally here has. But before I do that, we've got this picture that's been up here of your, what looks like a model. Tell us a little bit, is this kind of the plan? And I think we can probably see from it where the vertical lettuce factories are, and maybe where the rotating gardens are, or maybe just explain it. But I got to laugh a little bit. Do you not want? Do you want to keep your office people awake all the time because you put them into a cooler in the office area? So that's what it says on the bottom of the picture. So.
Yeah, that was just a plan drawing. But what you're seeing up on the top in the corners, you see on the left corner is the lettuce factory, and the right corner is orbiting garden. And what you're seeing there, and to give you an idea of the scale, the orbiting garden there is about 9 by 9, and then 45 feet long. So about the size of a city bus, gives you an idea. And that produces about 40 pounds of basil a day. Now what you're seeing down below is basically what we're looking at, modular farms. And in that case, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, farm units, of about 5,000 square feet each. And so there's orbiting gardens, there's lettuce factories, and then there's what we call kindergartens, which are our germination areas. You see some, you'll see some fish. There's some water mixing things. In this particular drawing, we have a rectangular tank system for tilapia. Nice, easy way to grade fish using that system as opposed to some of the round issues that you have. And it's just drawn in there, kind of block style. On the right side says office and cooler. They're two different rooms, but you would have a cooler for the for your veggies. You're going to harvest them, put them in the cooler right away, but you don't need a big office. You just need a small little office that's near the door where things are going to go in and out of. So that was just a kind of a, get an idea how it looks from that perspective. So it's a lot.
This was a complete. Go ahead. This was a complete built-out facility, Dave. About what is the scale here? So the rectangular, the long way, about how big is that, and then the shorter way, just so we can get a perspective.
Well, if you let's start over at the left. If you see right along the green fish tanks there's a row of orbiting gardens, and then there's actually you would say there's actually two lettuce factories in there, that big block in the middle, and then you'll see another orbiting gardens. You'll see them back to back. But to give you an idea, there so that is like two farm units. Each farm unit is about 5,000 square feet, so about 40 feet wide and about 125 feet deep is what the farm is.
Okay, so that gives a perspective. Well, very cool. Two more questions, and then we'll see if we get any from the audience. This has been great. I could ask you, as you know, I could just personally ask you questions all day about the technical side of this. But what's real interesting is our audience loves this personal side because they can go online and study all of the details of your system, Dave, but they really can't go online and hear about some of the things you've told us about, you as a person and what impacts you in your life and so on. And we find that people just really love to hear that. So thank you for being transparent with us. Is there a quote from anybody out there that's famous that you just kind of rings through your head every now and again that would be memorable, that would just say something that you could share? Sometimes I think our last speaker said the John F. Kennedy quote, to ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Anything that you've got that would be wonderful for our group to hear.
I think of a lot of quotes my father used to say and all, but famous was one I heard during one of the competitions. Somebody brought up was General Eisenhower once said that he found, let's see if I can get this right, that during the heat of the battle, that plans were useless, but uh, that planning was indispensable. So as much
Uh,
as you spend a lot of time on business plans and things like that, it's the planning, it's the effort, the work, the thought that goes into writing that plan. That plan sits on a shelf and it gathers dust, but the thought process to go all through that is indispensable, and then staying the course and with that.
well, awesome. One last question.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
going to just throw one thing. I don't know if we were talking on the phone when on my way back from South Dakota. What I thought was really exciting, and just to share with you a little more, I was meeting with a group. Two things: one about an Indian reservation, about putting a farm on their reservation, but the other was with Prairie Aquatech, who you're going to be hooking up with, and they're making fish food using a fungus that they through a process on soybean, and they're able to convert and get enough protein in the food that it can be for fish food. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. They can alter that process a little bit so that when the fish eats the product, what they excrete can be a little different. So for those of us in the aquaponic world, we're going to want a lot of phosphorus and such. They can change that, how the food is processed, so that the fish will excrete more of that. And versus somebody who's just pure aquaculture, that's going to be a real problem for them. So they would want to have a feed that would have less of that. So I think it's some really cool things that are happening in technology here for aquaponics in the future.
yeah, we did talk about that. Thanks for bringing that up, Dave. That our listeners, I'm sure, will enjoy that. And very true. We could talk for hours, but you just hit it. And so this is one more question, which is that do you believe that fish, being the entire source of nutrients for a plant community, will work? Or do you need to have supplemental nutrients in addition to what the fish produce?
Yeah, undoubtedly, you need more. It just, you're feeding the fish. It is, this whole recirculating system and all that. But your water quality can go out of whack really quick. We do water quality samples every morning, but we do have to add micronutrients. You're finding that you have three life forms in your tanks. You got or your tanks or your system. You got fish, you got plants, and you got bacteria. And the bacteria will chew up a fair amount of calcium, which is surprising sometimes. But trying to keep iron in solution and things. So you do have to add some of the micronutrients. You just can't get it all with the fish. But certainly the natural fertilization and stressing the plant just enough it can make for a much better improved product that's tastier and more tender. So.
Well, again, we could talk for hours, but we're getting real close to being the end here, and I have one last question. And as I say, as I end all of these, it's a doozy. It's sort of going to make you think a little bit. And it's one that I stole from a podcaster named John Lee Dumas, who does a podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire, and he literally does it every day and has new speakers. And he always asks this question. It's the way he ends, so I give him credit for it, but I want to ask you. So let's pretend that you woke up today and you realized immediately you're not where you were when you went to sleep. You're on a new planet. You've wandered around a little bit and you figured out I'm somewhere different. But you appear to have all your daily needs taken care of. It appears to be a friendly sort of place, much like your sort of home area. You don't know anybody though, and you've got your laptop and it appears to be able to get connected to something like the internet, and you got $500. What are you going to do for the next 7 days?
I guess my thoughts would be on getting home, and I don't know. Interplanetary travel, probably more than $500, but probably be looking at how to get home, and probably figure out what all those people are doing there, and maybe they're in the same boat that I am, and maybe how we could pull together and figure out a way home together. So
All right.
that's about all.
You are the first one. Everybody around here, he's the first one that's answered it that way, right? The people that are here live. That it's so cool because we get different answers to that every time we ask it. Well, Dave, this has been awesome. I know we're going to get an incredible replay from this that you're going to enjoy. You'll be able to take and use for your own benefit. I really look forward to linking up together. Interestingly, I'm headed to a conference on Friday in Santa Clara. Where was the event in Sarah? Do you remember what the name of the location that you were at your event at? Was it? I'm at the Marriott.
No, it was at the Santa Clara Convention Center.
Yeah. Well, I think I may be.
Not Santa. I'm sorry. Yes, San Jose. No, it was Santa Clara, right? Santa Clara Convention Center near San Jose. So
right, it's right next to Santa Clara. Santa Clara is right next to San Jose, but yeah, it's
right. So I was thinking it was in Santa Clara, but maybe it was San Jose. But it was the convention center there. It was a pretty big convention center. It was a clean tech open, a lot of new businesses, and the mayor was there giving a speech, trying to entice all of us to move out there. So
yeah, be a little different cost of doing business probably there than it is in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Well, Santa Clara was interested in because of our model of less water, and water's a big issue out west. So as you know.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, Dave, thank you so much. Audience, thank you so much. We will be back again 2 weeks from today. We have a really cool speaker named Giuseppe Lamanna, and Giuseppe is going to be talking to us about his business and his life. He has a company called Ecologics, and he also is into a Chinese traditional diet that he's going to talk quite a bit about. And I've gotten to know him over the last couple months, and I'm just excited about that. Dave and DJ and Brian and all those at Garden Fresh, best wishes to you. I would love to link up again, and I'm sure as I get back into your area, I will do that with you guys. You know you're always welcome here, Dave, and we would love to see you guys out this way again sometime. And again, thank you so much. Thank you to the audience, and hopefully we'll get to see or hear from a bunch of you over the next couple weeks. And Dave, best wishes.
Hey, thank you very much. And you're always welcome here too. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Dave, stay on just a second.
Okay.